So real sex really arose out of our own journey into exploring our own sexuality, because we realised that there's so many misconceptions about sex out there in the world, and that the media puts so much pressure on people to be a certain way in their sexuality. It becomes all about performance and getting into the head. So we really look for an antidote to all of that, and so we came up with the construct of real sex.
And real sex is, for us, sex that is living and breathing, arising out of the moment, arising out of ourselves and with our partner, being able to be real, authentic ourselves in the moment. So real sex is about finding the flow of life, finding the flow of what's true in the moment, and being able to express that.
And one of the things that the media does is it tells everyone that there are certain techniques you need to do, there are certain things you need to achieve in sex, like sex has some kind of goal, and all of that just takes people into the head. And the big problem is that when you're in your head, you're on your own. Your lover's not in your head, you're up there on your own, and you're not in your body. So a big part of real sex for us is about embodiment. It's about dropping down into the body and feeling what's going on.
And it's when we drop down into the body that we're able to be real with each other, that we're able to allow life to flow through us, and we're able to express what is authentically happening in us. And in that sense, real sex is also about our ability to be vulnerable with each other, to be real with everything that's coming up when we're opening to each other in a deep way. That does not mean that real sex is about, we can only have real sex if we are in a long-term committed relationship where we know each other really well, but it can be in that meeting, in that moment. Are we able to open to what's really here in all our humanness?
Real sex for us is really about letting life flow through us. It's about allowing ourselves to open to the life force energy, which is the sexual energy. And in that sense, sex is not something that we do. It's not an act, it's not a behavior, it's not an orgasm. It's actually just a state of being.
And in that sense, when sex is a state of being, this is how we're challenging society's perception of sex, because it's like sex is understood as something that we do. Sex is an act. Sex is something that we step into. Now I'm stepping into being sexual in the bedroom, mainly, where sex can happen. But in our perception, sex is not a doing, sex is a being. It's not something that we step in and out of. We are always sexual beings. We are always connected with our sexual energy, because it's life force energy. It's life flowing through us. So that's always happening. The question is, how much am I tuning into it? How much am I allowing myself to be real with and take ownership of this wonderful energy that's flowing through me?
And if we really tune into that energy, we can feel the very subtle vibration of pleasure in our body in any moment, right?
Yeah, it's so wonderful to start thinking of sex in this different way, because then it's about the subtle sensations that are already happening always in our bodies. It's just about tuning into that, what we call the background pleasure of being alive, life flowing through us. And if we're really sensitive to it and don't think we have to look for sexual feelings like we've been told they have to look like we've seen in porn, but we just start to feel what's actually here, we can access some kind of almost orgasmic feeling all the time. It doesn't mean we're having an orgasm, it just means there's a subtle energy of pleasure that's always flowing through our bodies.
Because one of the problems with, particularly with pornography, is that it focuses on a kind of intensity. Bigger things, happening harder, happening faster. This is supposed to be good sex. But actually, if we slow ourselves down, if we let ourselves tune into our bodies and feel the more subtle sensations, the more subtle vibrations, then actually these become much more powerful than these kind of gross sensations.
Yeah, and this is the biggest misconception about sex, is that sex is something that has to be turned on in a specific moment and then sex starts. Instead of allowing sexual energy to be there always, because then if we just tune it up, it becomes much stronger and much whole. It's a much more whole experience than just this stepping in and out of sex.
Real sex really arose out of our own journey into our own sexuality and exploring that.
We wrote this book because for me this was a book I would have loved to read when I was younger. This is the information that would have changed my life if I had knew that at earlier stages in my life. I was nearly 40 before I started really dealing with my sexuality, really admitting to myself that I have a sexuality and that it's not fully developed. And I didn't know where to start. I didn't know what to do. I looked around and what's around? Who do you talk to? What kind of knowledge? And there's almost only tantra if you want to know more about your sexuality. But there was something missing. There was something missing in what's happening inside in the psyche. What are the messages? Why do I feel like this about my sexuality? And all these questions that what is this? I got this body, I got this sexuality, what am I going to do with it?
Most of the information I got about sex growing up was from looking at porn mags and things like that. So and later on from videos, but that it just gave me such a distorted perspective on what sex is about. It became all about performance. It became all about, you know, bigger sex, harder sex, all of these kind of constructs, and it just took me absolutely out of the felt experience of my own embodied experience of sexuality. So what we really developed together was just this capacity to be really authentic with each other, to be in the flow of whatever we're feeling and expressing in that moment, and just to be really real with that.
I'd say the strongest message that I received from my upbringing, from my culture, from my parents, etc., was that sex is wrong, sex is bad. You're not allowed to be a sexual woman. And that is I'm just one of the millions and billions of women and men that receive this message, and growing out of such an ingrained message, even if you know with your mind and now that that's not true, it's a real journey to grow out and give yourself permission to be a sexual being. And I'd say this is one of the topics that we address in the book, is about what were those messages that we received, and how can we come into a more honest, a more true connection with ourselves, to know who we are sexually and give ourselves full permission to be that. That's what we're really passionate about. That's what have changed our lives massively.
Yeah, I think because there's so much shame about sexuality, this idea of giving oneself permission to be sexual is so important. And for us, sex is not some dirty, naughty, sneaky thing. Sex is actually innocence, because our sexual aliveness is a very innocent and childlike quality that we all have. You know, when we're growing up, if we have a healthy, safe environment, we start to explore our own body and discover, hey, this bit feels good. And then maybe a bit later, we start to play doctors and nurses with our friends or cousins or whoever. And that's a very innocent exploration, and it's very normal, natural and healthy. But the problem arises because of the judgments that are imposed upon us when we start to naturally explore our sexuality. So we're very much about getting back to the innocence of sexuality.
So this is a book that's written in a way that it will support you to grow into a better, a deeper understanding who you are sexually. We've got a lot of information to share. It's full of exercises for you to get a sense of, oh, what's going on at a deeper level. Start really inquiring and deepening your connection with yourself. Some of it are visualizations, some of it are guided meditations, some of it are inquiries for you just to think about, some of it is exercises you can do with yourself or with a partner. And there's also a lot of information about society and how that has formed our ideas and our beliefs about sex. So in a way we help you create a framework to understand, why am I thinking? How am I thinking? Is there a way that I could change into Is there a way that I could understand myself better so that I could start being more authentic and express who I really am and express myself in a way I really want to express myself? So it's really a guide for you to grow sexually.
One of the things we do a lot in the book is we completely reframe what you're probably understanding about sexuality and turn it on its head. So if you think that the brain is the biggest sexual organ, you're wrong. You need to be in the body. If you think that what you do in sex is important, you're wrong. It's about how you are. So we really turn a lot of these misconceptions that our culture has given us absolutely 180 degrees around. And we'll give you a completely different framework for understanding your sexuality. So we believe that this book will transform your relationship, not only with your sexuality, but with your body, with your relationship with relationships, with yourself. This is going to be a deep journey that you'll go through in this book. It's going to help you to feel more confident about yourself. It's going to help you to enjoy your sexuality more. And it's going to ripple out through all areas of your life. Because when you address your sexuality, it doesn't just stop in the bedroom. It impacts how you relate with everyone around you, with your partner, with your friends, with your work colleagues. It's going to change so many things in your life.
And this is also why this book is supporting you to be who you are at this evolutionary edge where we are right now. Society's values are changing. We need a change in the world. We need a deep change. And this book is a part of that change, is a part of supporting you to become an agent of change. Because when you get in touch with the realness of your sexuality, with the realness of your ability to connect with other people, you can bring that truth into everything, and you can bring that truth into questioning and changing the values that don't work for you anymore. So in this sense, we wrote this book because we truly believe that changing inside creates that change outside that is so needed. And in this way, we hope that it will support you for the growth that you are longing for and for the growth that the world is longing for.